When someone only talks on their own terms, it often creates an imbalance where you're always adjusting and waiting. The real change happens when you stop chasing and shift your focus back to yourself. This topic is about how changing your behavior, setting boundaries, and increasing your value can flip the dynamic. So instead of you waiting, they start reaching out to you consistently. When someone only talks on their own terms, it creates an unhealthy dynamic where you are always adjusting to their timing, mood, and availability. You wait for their messages, reply instantly when they text, and often ignore your own priorities just to keep the conversation going. Over time, this puts them in control and lowers your value in the interaction. Stopping this pattern means you no longer let them decide everything. You start respecting your own time, routine, and boundaries. If they message when it suits them, you don't feel the need to respond immediately every time. You reply when it fits your schedule, not out of urgency or fear of losing their attention. This shift is not about being rude or ignoring them, it's about balance. You are simply aligning your actions with self-respect instead of emotional dependency. When you stop playing by their rules, you remove the one-sided control they had over the interaction. Another important effect is psychological. When someone is used to controlling the pace and suddenly that control is no longer there, they notice the difference. They begin to realize that you are not as easily available or predictable as before. This can create curiosity and make them put in more effort to maintain the connection. It also helps you regain emotional stability. You are no longer waiting or reacting based on their behavior. Your focus shifts back to your own life, which increases your confidence and independence. Stopping to play by their rules restores balance and self-respect. It shows that your time and energy are valuable, and it changes the dynamic from one-sided to mutual, where effort is expected from both sides, not just you. Reducing your availability means you stop being constantly accessible and start treating your time and attention as valuable. When you are always available, replying instantly, initiating every conversation, and adjusting your schedule for someone, you make your presence feel normal and expected. Over time, this can reduce your importance because there is no effort required from the other person. When you reduce your availability, you don't disappear, you simply create balance. You take your time to reply, you don't always initiate conversations, and you prioritize your own work, routine, and personal life. This shift shows that your life does not revolve around them. One of the biggest effects of limited availability is increased value. People tend to notice and appreciate what is not constantly available. When your presence is no longer guaranteed, it becomes something they start paying attention to. Reducing availability also helps you regain emotional control. You are no longer checking your phone constantly or waiting for their messages. Your focus shifts back to your own priorities, which reduces overthinking and emotional dependency. Another important aspect is respect. When you respect your own time, others begin to respect it too. You send a clear message that your attention is not something that can be taken for granted. However, this should be natural, not forced. It's not about ignoring someone or playing games, it's about having your own life and not over-prioritizing someone who is inconsistent. Reducing your availability creates balance, increases your value, and shifts the dynamic. It makes your presence more
Ờ, rất
meaningful
cảm
and
ơn thôi, rất
encourages
vui
the
đấy.
other person to put in more effort to stay connected with you.
May mắn nhá.
Shifting your focus to yourself is the most powerful way to change any one-sided dynamic. When someone controls the communication, it usually happens because your attention is heavily centered on them, what they're doing, when they'll text, and how they're behaving. This creates emotional dependency and makes you lose control over your own time and mindset. When you shift your focus back to yourself, everything starts to change. Instead of constantly thinking about them, you invest your energy into your own life, your goals, work, health, and personal growth. You begin building a routine that keeps you engaged and productive, rather than waiting for someone else's attention. This shift has a strong psychological impact. When your life no longer revolves around them, your behavior becomes less predictable. You are not always available, not always reacting, and not always initiating. This creates a noticeable change in the dynamic. The other person starts to feel that difference and may become more curious about what you're doing and why your attention has shifted.